All right, welcome back for another episode of Keys of Currency. Today I got another special guest. This guy is a real estate investor in the Georgia market. He's a young gun. He is somebody who is killing it out here. And we're going to learn a little bit of strategies from him today and learn a little bit about his background. But without further ado, please help me welcome Mr. Gino.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
I'm excited to have this conversation, bro. So I like starting this out, asking everybody, can you give a little bit of background about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so right now I'm mostly wholesaling in the Metro Atlanta market. Background on myself, I found real estate wholesaling 2018. I was 19 years old, end of 2018. But before that, I was in college. It was my sophomore year when I found it. But before that, ever since high school, and actually, ever since I was like 11 years old, I was always into some, entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So I was selling headphones back then. I was selling shoes. I was going 11 years old. I had my mom take me to like the Easter release of like the Cobes or the KDs, the basketball shoes, and wait in line, buy them for like $180, sell them the next day for $250. And at 11 years old, like $70 was a lot of money. So stuff like that. Later on, I started selling stuff from Ross, Marshalls, buying things in bulk, selling it on eBay in bulk, meaning like $100 to $200, like thousands of dollars. But buying in bulk, selling, led me into high school. I started selling Yeti coolers, sunglasses, chargers, Apple chargers, and just a bunch of things to capitalize to where I was getting my senior year. I was selling headphones where I made $50K in 1 month.
Holy shit.
At 17, now it was gross. I'm netted probably about 10,000. And at 17, I was like, oh shoot, I like this. Didn't last very long because Christmas came and went, and then the supplier dried up. But
wait a minute, you were making $50K selling headphones?
Yeah, I did one month. So I can't say I was making consistently, but 1 month I sold it during Christmas, like from like November 2nd to December 3rd. I was selling them on.
What made the supplier dry up? Like what?
It was Chinese supplier, so they weren't always the most reliable supplier. Gotcha. So no, they dried up, and then I started getting into the stock market a little bit. 18, and I was trying to day trade, and I did that from 18 to about when I found wholesaling, 20. Right, it did even further. Again, I started 19. I just kept doing it, trying to, even while I was doing wholesaling, and I never had that much success. I remember losing like $5K in art class. I used that $10K in profit, put it towards, I put that $10K in the trading account, and I blew it up in like 2 months. Just freaking blew it up. And so, that led me there. And then it started flipping more heavily, like garage sales. Like, again, this is now going into freshman and sophomore year, summer, going into sophomore year from college. Started flipping refrigerators, appliances, all this stuff, which then finally led me to a random YouTube video by Max Maxwell, like, again, September of 2018, that brought me into the eyes of wholesaling, talking about like how you can make money without owning the property. And I was like, shoot, let me look into this. And then by November 4th, I had my first deal closed. $10,000 Bandit sign in Marietta.
Wow.
That's where the deal was, in Marietta. So I was like, all right, I got my 10 G's. I'm 19. I was like, all right, let's go hard at this. And so it's been a struggle journey. It hasn't been always easy, but I think it's definitely the right path. I was happy that I took it instead of maybe taking a job somewhere, right? But yeah, it's a little background. I know it was a lot, but little background there.
No, I mean so what's funny about that is you said Max Maxwell. That's how you learn about wholesaling.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I learned about wholesaling.
Yeah, see?
And you got into, you said September of 2018?
Yeah.
July 2018 is when I found out about Max Maxwell.
Yeah, see?
And I got my first deal drawing for dollars.
There
We just went on YouTube, and he had a video about drawing for dollars. In 3 weeks, I made $9K.
Yeah, look at that. See?
And so it's like, he was like the gateway drug for us, so to speak.
Yeah, he led us to all that. Now we do different types of real estate. Now we got all this sub 2, you got Airbnb, because Max Maxwell was posted on YouTube. So
bro, he was like the only one that was like on social media, like talking and teaching about wholesaling. So So 2018, you get in it. Now, how long was wholesaling like a hustle for you? Meaning, when did it turn into a business?
I would say the end of 2019, a year later. I would say that's when I started looking at it more as a business instead of just like, hey, let's grind. So I brought in the end of 2018. I do my first deal in November, right? And then I bring in my partner, who's actually my roommate at the time. I brought him in, and I was like, hey, let's do this together. He wasn't even a part of the first deal. I said, look, I made this 10 G's. Let's do this at a bigger scale. And the scale, meaning we just, instead of putting out 100 bandit signs, we'd put 200 out every week, and then we'd put 300 out. And then it led us to February. We closed our second deal for $12K, kept doing the process. And it wasn't till we started cold calling in like April. It was like 6 months later. And I was like, looking back, like, I don't know what took me that long. I think I was cold calling probates during this time, but I never bought a list. I was just looking at the county site. Like Max Maxwell talked about going to the county. You can look at probates. You can see on the, it's been so long, I don't even remember the document's name, but you can see the heirs or the executors, potentially the executors that, and you can call the phone number on there. So anyway, I was doing that, but long story short, I started really getting a list and data back about in April. And we hired a VA. So, I mean, it's kind of becoming more of a business, not a hustle, but we hired a VA in April to scrub data, upload it into a skip tracer. But it wasn't until I would say probably around the end of that year, September of 2019, that we start hiring more people. I think we brought in another data person, then we brought in a texter, and then it started being just me handling and talking to as many sellers as possible. So that's when it became more of a business. But the true reality where it became the complete business, I think, for me, and not even, to the point where I'm, talking to sellers, was in 2020. March of 2020, I hired our first AM. It took a couple months to train them, and consistently train them for years and years, but a couple months to really get them going. But by that time that hit, it was probably like May again, 2020, during COVID time. But that I was free. I was an LM, AM. I didn't do any dispo stuff. I had a new partner at that time, which was Chandler now, doing dispo. And, I was living, I was just over here managing the sales department, not in it, working on the business, not in it. So to answer your question, I know I talk a lot. That's what I always do, but I would say the end of September or end of, 2019. But I believe like the true freedom, where it became like the business is running itself, was towards more of that May 2020.
So, and don't ever feel like you're talking too much.
Oh, I love talking.
We want you to be detailed and get game on here. You have a partner in your business, right?
Yep.
Having a partner can be very challenging because it's like a marriage, right? And I think the biggest mistake that a lot of people make when they get into any kind of business is they're like, I want a partner, but they find a partner that's just like them.
Yeah.
They don't find a partner that's like, that can complement their weaknesses, right? Chandler is basically like the CEO, the integrator in your business.
Exactly.
When you found him, did you know you're like, I got to go find somebody that complements my weaknesses? Or are you looking at it from a perspective of, I just want a partner, someone that believes in my vision and we share the same visions?
So good question. So it's actually a really good question because Chandler wasn't my partner at first. So I lived in this townhome. I still do. And Chandler lived in the bottom floor, and I knew Chandler from when we were 12. We played baseball together. And there was another kid we actually was on that same team when we were 12. His name is John Paul. He was actually living with me before Chandler moved in that townhome, and we were best friends since we were like 7 or 8. And so John Paul and me, he was actually filming a movie when I did my bandit sign and closed my first deal. When he came back, that was the guy I was referencing. I brought him in, and again, I brought him in, and I had the same conversation recently on my podcast. I brought him in just because it felt good. He was a friend. He did stuff with me. He was flipping the garage sale stuff. He was flipping, some of the, when we were younger at Ross and Mark, like we were doing that together. And so, it felt good just bringing him, hey, come on.
Yeah.
And the problem was, which we find out later. And so about the end of 2021, so the end of 2020, Chandler joined our forces with us in about August of 2020. Why? I was trying to tell Chandler all 2019 and even beginning of 2020, come on, work with us in real estate. He was focused on some other things. We were still in college. He was still in college. And so he was like, no. Finally, I get him. And then I realized, to answer your question, I finally found someone that like could complement me, because Chandler's not sales oriented. He can do it, right? It's not saying he can't do it. He's not good at it, or he can be good at it, but that's not his best strong suit. I knew he's way better at, marketing and systems, versus my partner, John Paul. At that time, he's still my partner. He did like you were saying, he was pretty much doing the same stuff I was doing, or his best skills were my skills. But at the same time, that doesn't help the company, because before Chandler came, that's leaving exposure to the systems, the processes, and all that. And again, that didn't help. It didn't complement me. And so at the end of 2020, we decided, and we had a conversation, and helped me that Chandler was there because he saw it too. There's a couple of reasons why. One being mostly that it was more like he was an employee to the business, not an actual owner, because like I said a little bit earlier, he was a movie actor. He was filming a Netflix movie, actually, when I discovered wholesaling, that when he was gone, and he's filming movies nonstop. And so he's like, he had ownership, but he wasn't acting like an owner, like an employee. And then two, it's also because he didn't compliment me. Now, even if he wasn't in the movie business, he wasn't complimenting me the same as Chandler. He wasn't providing the value. Again, I think, like you said, a lot of people, and I talked to a lot of guys, they said, I want a partner because they feel lonely when they start. Yeah. And that's where problems can start. And I tell some of our students that too. It's like, don't just get a partner to get a partner. Make sure they compliment you. And so that's what Chandler, again, when he joined in 2020, that end of mid to the end of 2020, the business blew up. So in 2020, we did 750,000, I think, around there, 760. And in 2021, when Chandler's full-time with us, we did 1.8.
Wow.
Now, the market obviously helped, and even Chandler would say that, we got a wind of the market, a lot of things. But I would say a big reason that we're able, and I lived in Europe for 90 days. Chandler now recently, he was in South America for 3 months. And that wouldn't have been happening if I had the old partner, just because I would have been having to do a lot. But since we complement each other, Chandler takes on a lot of responsibilities. I take on some, but we're able to hold each other accountable. So that's the big thing. Like you mentioned, in those partnerships, you want someone that compliments you. You can hold accountable. You're not afraid to. Someone that's willing to work as hard as you, or else you're just giving away. Like at first, I look back and I was like, I just gave away, some money and time just because I felt comfortable. I felt lonely with someone, when reality is that's not going to help our business grow. Just by bringing on someone that, you want to be talking to every day, or that because you're lonely.
Yeah.
Right?
I think, like I said, so many people make that mistake. You described that so perfectly, dude. It's like, when you're looking for somebody, make sure you find somebody that is going to complement your weaknesses. Because if they have the same vision as you, or the same strength as you, and you guys both have the same weaknesses, you're getting nowhere.
No, yeah.
I mean, you're just going to fall flat on your
yeah.
face. Over time, it's just a matter of time before you guys fail. So
yeah.
that's awesome that you have him in your business, and he's helped take you guys to the next level.
Sure.
Now, having a business partner, you guys ever clash, or like you're like, hey,
for sure,
yeah.
All the time. Well, first off, because we know each other since we're 12, so it's like you kind of mess around. Like we're friends too. We were friends before the business, right? So we mess around, we joke around, but also we don't always agree on everything. Which I hope we don't always agree on everything, because if we do, then something's wrong. Someone's giving up more than they should, that someone needs to be able to defend themselves and say what they think. But, we never get in some, serious, like we're not fist fighting or anything, but, there's definitely some, I think we should do that. And if it's his department, I don't try to overstep it. I say, hey, just do whatever then, whatever you think. Just know you take accountability for it. Now, obviously, if I know it's something I've already dealt with and I've done and all that, I'll try to guide him as much as possible, but I'm not going to force him to, do something he doesn't want to do, or make a decision. Because again, that's I got to respect his department. If that's marketing, which is no longer his department, but he's in Dispo right now. Like I'm not even involved in that. I'll let you do everything. Right. So of course we clash, but nothing, no intense. I don't want to do it either, because he's state champion wrestler. I don't want to take on Chandler. Right? He would take me down in 2 seconds, but yeah.
No, I mean, that's good that you guys have your way of like dealing with the clashes, because there's always going to be those moments where you might not see eye to eye.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys know how to, say, hey, you're accountable if this goes this way. So that's good. So where are we at today, dude? Like, you started your journey in 2018, right? It's 2023. What does your company look like right now in January 2023?
Yeah, January 2023, we just let go of some people, but we're at about 35 people.
Okay.
We have 3 AMs, 5 LMs. I'm sorry, I'm over here. I'm on the top. I'm trying to think of everyone, but we got 3 AMs. We got 5 roughly LMs. That number's fluctuating again. We're trying to hire people, get the best people in, fire the people that aren't performing. But 3 to 5 AMs. We got a full marketing team. We got 12 launch control accountants sending 26,000 texts out a day. Got 10 people doing SMS type roles, VAs mostly. We got a marketing director. We got transaction director. Chandler's dispo director. I'm finance director. 35 people, and I would say about half virtual, half in America. And yeah, we're mostly direct to seller wholesaling.
So you guys are basically a virtual business. Yep. There's no in-office.
No office. We don't go in person appointments. We don't do, none of us on the forefront of the team go into taking pictures of the properties. We have our frat boys do it. We actually have frat boys in there. We got our project manager. We don't do any big flips, so we call him our project manager to handle trash outs if we buy a property, just to quickly wholesale. And he's actually the president of a fraternity that's where we live by, so he recruits all his frat bros, and they go out and take pictures for us. But yeah, we're completely virtual. I've been on a couple in my 4 years, probably 2 in-person appointments. But since then, we rarely go out in person unless we just go in to get an agreement signed.
So, what's the pros and cons of running a virtual business?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's obviously both. So pros, we can do it anywhere in the world. And I guess you could do that too if you're the leader and, having people going in person. But what I think so we can take it per department, right? So marketing, it's really not, I think, a huge difference between in-person and not in person, other than maybe communication with the marketing director. But we have Discord, and we build our Discord out where there's rooms, marketing rooms. And so literally all texters are in one Discord, just as if they're in Discord voice channel, just as if they're in an office, right? They can put their cameras on. We don't require it, but we do have them all in the voice channel. And our marketing director can go in at any time, say, hey, John, join my office. Or, hey, John, I got this question, right? Then another texter. So in that respect, in marketing level, I don't think there's a huge difference, but in acquisitions, right, there's obviously some. So we have LMs. I think the LM role is best suited over the phone, just because if you're going over there just to set up another appointment, right, that's what the LM does in our role. It's kind of, you're wasting a lot of time, right? That time that you spend 30 minutes to the property, the time you spend 30 minutes back, and the time you probably spend 30 minutes there, hour and a half on one, call. What we do now is, we obviously do everything over the phone, but as a lead manager, within about 10 minutes, we talk to the seller and we've already set up an appointment with an acquisition manager and sometimes even a live transfer. So what I was about to get at for acquisitions, closings, acquisition manager, right? We got lead manager, we got acquisition. The pros, I think, for acquisitions is we can close and we can give the seller what they want a lot quicker than someone going out in person. Why? Because, again, he talks to our LM1, right? Let's just say that's Jordan. He talks to Jordan at 12:05. Jordan knows by 12:15 this guy's motivated, wants to sell in discounted price. By 12:17, Jordan transferred that seller to Jared, or acquisition, and he's already talking about locking him up. Versus, traditionally, even if you have an LM that's over the phone, right, most people do, he's then got to set the appointment for the acquisition manager. And again, it might be 12:15, and the next appointment the guy might be available is 1:30 or even 2:00. And by that time, I already locked the contract up. If you go out there and you're in person and you set up for 2 and we talk to him right after you, I already will lock the contract up because I've already talked to the seller. I've already gave him the offer and I'm able to negotiate them with him really well.
Are these phone calls or you guys
all phone calls? Yeah,
or?
All phone calls. Now the negatives, the cons of acquisitions is there's no doubt in my mind we don't get as deep as discounts than in person. I know some of the 3 of the biggest guys I know that do wholesaling at a huge scale. They all go in person appointments, and the big reason is they say we can close so much easier and so much deeper discounts in person. Yeah. It's the 3 guys. So you got Darren and Doug and Phoenix. They did $12 million last year. You got the San Diego guys, Phil Green and Eric Guidenson. They're going to do well over, I don't even want to say them, multiple millions of dollars, and they're all in person. They're probably the highest level. If you guys don't know who they are, just watch Steve's podcast, Steve Trang, Real Estate Disruptors, Phil Green, crazy amount. They bought more homes last year in San Diego than Open Door. So that tells you anything.
Now is their business model though? Is it wholesale?
It's direct to seller acquisitions.
Okay.
Now they have a very high, and I know we're talking about now, I'm hyping them up on this show, but they have a very high level process on what they do to underwrite. Mm-hmm. So they either wholesale, they mostly flip during the height of the market.
Okay.
But, direct to seller. Anyway, I think the cons is we don't get as deep a discounts and we can't close as much. And what I mean as much is like we don't have a better chance because if you're in person,
yeah,
a lot better connection
in person.
Right? So that's a big thing. I think that's the number one thing. That's the con to a virtual team. Is that acquisition is part of it.
Has it been tempting, like, because I know you network with those guys, right?
Yeah.
So has it been tempting to be like, hey, Chandler, man, like, we see the numbers that these guys are doing, like, we
all
should
the time.
consider
all the time, and like I always say, like, we're dumb not to do it. But then I talk with Ren Bartlett, like like I told you, we mentored with him for a year plus, and I talked to Steve Trang. Trang is a big one in person, but then he also went back. Both of them said the same thing in different calls. I built a business so I could, be wherever I want. And you could say, well, you could still have your people going, but I built all of our, I don't want to say core values, but our mindsets and, where we're looking at as our team is like, look, we can do this where we want, whenever we want. And, no one is set to one location, and it allows us to attract a lot of talent. That's another pro about virtual. I can hire anyone in Kansas. Yep. I can hire the best closer in New York. I can hire, traditionally they got to stay, if you have a closer, you're going to either have to move them into Phoenix if you're in Phoenix or in Atlanta, yep, and you're going to have to fly them, so that's a big pro. But I think, the reality of it is it just comes to, there's pros and cons of a lot of them. But we've definitely been tempted multiple times, like, hey, why don't we try it? Why don't we try it? And we still should, we still should. Right now I have no AM that's in Georgia. So like, I just, actually lost one of them that was in Georgia. So none right now. But if I had one, I probably would start having them do it a little bit, but I did have them and I didn't do it. So I don't know, man. I'm just all over the place with that.
So, what's stopping you though, bro? Like, is it just, you feel like you're gonna have to rebuild the company if you do it, or?
The biggest thing that's stopping me from doing in person is probably just the mindset that
you love the virtual model.
It's the process, which the mindset could hurt you, but it's like just the process of how we do things. I tell our AMs they need to have 50 plus calls. 75 calls a day. Now, if they complete an appointment, it knocks it down 25 calls. And I just feel like if they're going out to appointments, they're limited to 2 to 3 a day, which is fine, but then they're missing out on their follow-ups. And I'm not against them. Like I said, sometimes they do. Very rarely they'll go out if they know a seller is looking for that older guy. Right? Some of this, I only do business with people I see. Of course, we're going to talk to them over the phone, negotiate with them as much as possible. And once we know they're going to be somewhat of a deal or at a deal, then we'll go out there, right, to gain that trust. But right now I'm probably not in the position, one, because I have a Bolivian AM, lives in Bolivia, one lives in Florida, one lives in Washington, and I don't want to get back in the business, which might be the bad thing. And when I mean in the business, I'm getting into it more, making dials on the computer, but I'm not trying to go on appointments because that's not my strong suit. I've been virtually closing for the last 4 years, I feel like I'm pretty competent in it now. You got
accustomed to what you're used to.
Yeah, maybe I'm too comfortable, but it could be a weakness. It probably is a weakness now that we're talking about it, but I'll find a way. We'll make it work. Again, if we start seeing decline, I don't know if I covered it completely. Like I said, talking all over the place, but when Steve and Ren talked to me, they said, don't change your process. Don't just change because it's not working now, because it was working, right? I'm just saying, if you're failing, like, or closing rates down, it was working. Why are you going to just, it's kind of, turning your eye and, chasing the shiny out. Like, why don't you go in person now? But it was working for us. So let's find out why it's not working out, correct it there before just saying, let's change our whole business model and go in person. Yeah. That's a big reason. Both those big mentors told me that. And I'm like, you're right. Even though they agree that in person's better, they like it better. For me, it's like, you're going to, again, just because you're not succeeding right now, find the reason why, because you were succeeding in person or in virtual appointments. So find that reason and then identify that, and you can fix them, which happened. Like in June, we started closing at a lower ratio. We're closing like 14% on a month. Like, what the heck's going on? Should we go in person now? July, we locked up the most deals possible because we focused on why we were missing it and different things like that. So I think it was a good, to listen to them. Again, like I said, there's pros and cons to virtual and then in person. But personally, I just prefer the virtual route.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective because I run my business completely virtual. And it's like you said, you get to really like pick good talent nationwide. Yeah. rather than just in your own market. Because if you find someone that's really good, doesn't live in Atlanta, now you got to talk about relocating that person. And now you're kind of responsible for making sure they succeed. Because you don't want to relocate somebody from Arizona.
No, yeah.
And you end up having to let them go in a few months.
Yes, that would be
that would suck.
Yeah. See, that's why I think and that's a big thing. I talked about it a little bit. You said it. That's, anyone in the world we can recruit, so that's what's really intense and crazy about it. But, there's obviously pros and cons, but I think on the hiring side of things, obviously we got a bigger pool. So yeah, I think that's a big advantage of being virtual, having those closers. And
and what I've also noticed too, man, is like, I'm not that raw leader, that real enthusiastic, energetic person. And I might be completely wrong, but I always looked at, if you're going to have an office location, you better be high energy, raw type of guy, because it's sales and marketing in this business. And so if you want your people to follow you and you want to be a good leader, you better be a very energetic and enthusiastic leader.
Oh yeah, you got to be
up and ready.
Yeah.
And I'm like, with that, it's like when I do virtual, I don't have to really be that type of guy.
Yeah.
But in office, the successful people that I know that are in office, they're those types of people. And so I'm like, man, do I really want to do this in office thing? But with what's going on in the economy now, dude, I'm having second thoughts. I'm like, shit.
Are you starting to do it a little bit?
Well, I'm thinking about opening a location, getting an office location, just because it's like everyone's saying like, yo, we got to strap the boots up. Like we got to start going on appointments. Mm-hmm. We got to start getting our hands dirty, like, getting more, building rapport with sellers.
Yeah.
The best way to do that is in-person appointments, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's what we're saying. You can close a lot better in person.
Yeah.
Here's the thing though. You just got to look at like, what's your goal? What's your purpose?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will say, oh, I just want to, maybe you don't want to, put the boots on. Maybe you don't want to go in-person appointments, but you can do just as effective work. Here's the thing. Like a lot of people get in, we got to close more deals. Mm-hmm. But why don't you just close less deals at bigger sizes then? Like you look at your disc, because I got a lot of people who are students. They're like, and this is earlier in the year, like they're like, we're close, our deal size is 12K.
Yeah.
They're in the same market as us in Metro Atlanta, and you're in Georgia, right? So he's 12K and we're at 40K deal size, right? And this is again at the height of the market, right? Not anymore. We ended the year on 30,000. It's our average. But let's just again go back to 40K and they're at 12K. What's the difference between me and them? Well, the difference might not just been that we're, closing more deals, because it doesn't matter. What if we close the same amount of deals? We're going to make almost 4 times their money, a little bit over 3 times their money. So on, total revenue. And so what you look at is like, how can you be more effective in your business? And yeah, it has to do with closing ratio can come up more. You can close more deals, but also what if you got your deal size up 20%? What if you doubled your deal size? And for you might be happy making, $500K a year in revenue on wholesaling, because you can net at that point 60-70% of the money, so you're making over roughly $300,000. And it's like, if you're fine making $300,000, you don't need to focus on changing your lifestyle, going in person appointments. Just focus on, again, doing your 12K deal size, tripling that again to $36,000, and you're at 12 to 36. And now you could do a quarter of the deals and still make the same money, you know what I mean? Or a third of the deals. It's like that's a lot of people and the students, chase revenue, more deals closed. It's like also, revenue is good to chase, but one, profit, but two, it's not just closing more deals. I think if you're closing at 20%, you're doing a good job. I think then you can look at some other aspects of it. Like, how are we doing our follow-up? What's our marketing spend? We're spending marketing on this. That's only giving us a 2.3x return. After we pay commissions and everything, we're really not making a lot of money. Why don't we retarget our CRM for free? Why don't we cold call our CRM? Why don't we text that's like cold leads and refresh that? And that's what we've done recently. Our PPC, we ran for 2 months, didn't get the return we wanted. TV I've done for 3 years. Started in 2020, so about 2.5 years actually. And now I'm starting to scale that back tremendously. I was spending $60K a month. Now we'll probably spend $5K a month on it.
Wow.
Yeah, because we're not seeing the return. And maybe it's because we're not closing deals. Obviously, if we're closing all the deals, we would be too. But we've looked back. We checked how many leads we got. We see the cost per lead increasing dramatically. We've seen the results of the leads that we're getting. Not as obviously, we don't just make the decision. We looked at a lot of data, and right now it just wasn't paying off. Now, maybe in 2 months, we're back on it at 30K a month. I can't say that for sure. But right now, we're just targeting some high-end or more the best performing commercials at 5K a month. But you got to know that. And we're retargeting our CRM. We're going back into it. We got 9,000 cold leads. A lot of people sold that we put in cold that we thought weren't going to sell. I guarantee we look back, a bunch of them. That's what we're doing right now. We're identifying where's our leaky buckets in our CRM. Then we're going to attack it. We're going to go start mailing our CRM because those are the hottest people. Even if they are cold, meaning that they have no motivation and maybe their asking price is really high. They showed you they want to sell. And we know in this business, it's all time. It's just a timing. That's it. This business is timing. I mean, I wish I could text. I always tell people, if I could text everybody in the Atlanta or wherever market you're in, one time per week, even one time per day, but let's just go and say more realistic, even though that's not realistic, but one time per week, everybody, and it delivers 100% of the time, they see it 100% of the time, I would pay, hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars, because the thing is, even that person tells you, and this happened numerous times, they tell us 1 month, April, I'll never sell to someone like you. Literally, guys saying, I'm going to burn your guy's office down. We don't have an office, so joke's on him. But burn your office down. Or I'm never, he literally said that. Month later, sells to us $60K lower than what he was asking. Now, I don't think he knew it was our company because we do different types of marketing. But just to show you, he sells to someone like that. So it's right. It's all timing, right? Things can change. Something happens, they lose their job next week. Yeah, they weren't selling. They were selling at market. Now next week, they got to find another one and they need cash quick. They'll sell for $50K lower. They need money, right? Yeah. Everyone's got different problems. We're not just talking about that or they inherit a property. So again, that's the biggest thing is just making sure you're consistent. And we're talking about being more efficient and effective in marketing and sales and all that. It's just timing, right? So that's what we're focusing on this year coming in to Q1 is just effectiveness, being efficient. That's our word of the quarter is efficiency. We can be better at retargeting our CRM, follow-ups, all that good stuff. We can make a lot more money and not spend as much on marketing that's not performing. Never, I tell people all the time, never stop marketing. That's the whole business. That's the bloodline of the business is marketing. But if it's not working marketing, use that money elsewhere or save that money, right? I'm not telling you guys to stop marketing in any sense. If you're getting a 3x plus return, again, depending on the marketing source, you're doing a good job. Don't stop that. Now, I usually look at trailing 90 days, 180 days, and, a year. And I make my decisions based on what I think is going to happen. But if I'm making a 3x return in the 90-day outlook, I'm feeling very positive. Again, depending on the market. SMS, we're about 8x return right now. That's our best. 8x on SMS.
Dude.
That's our best one.
We were eating shit with text messaging.
That's the thing. And that's why we stopped cold calling.
So did we.
Yeah. But some people in Atlanta market are killing it cold calling.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear how different people are performing using marketing channels that you're struggling in.
Exactly.
And it's like, how? Because it's like, I feel like we're doing every single thing right. And it's like, you go to your mentor, like, listen, I'm struggling. These are the KPIs with this marketing channel. How do we fix it? You make your tweaks. You're still struggling. We're like, okay, it's dead. It's not working. Cut it off. Then you talk to someone like yourself. I'm doing 8X on text messaging. Yeah. It's like, what? How?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make
like
sense.
That, man. It's crazy, bro.
Yeah, it's just, and that's the thing. You got to be very mindful that, every marketing source works. It just might not work for you right now. And there's some reason why. And if you really want to get to know why others work, you got to identify, what they're doing very well. And just, I know you said you followed as much KPIs as possible, but there's probably something in their follow-up process.
Yeah.
Or there's something like for us, we text 26,000 people a day.
Holy man.
Obviously, you run out of data like this, but guess what? We retext them. What did I tell you? If I could text someone every single day, I would. So we're hitting these people nonstop. And obviously, we're freaking abusing them with text messages, but just a timing game, right? I think last month we had 17 contracts, and why I said I think about 14 of them, might have been 13, but 14 of them were SMS.
Wow.
So these are people we've already hit before usually, but they're just coming back, finally answer now that they want to sell. Timing, we lock them up. Right?
So let's talk about this sales and marketing, right? I would argue that sales is more important than marketing because you can do all the marketing in the world, but if you can't close a deal, you're just throwing money in the trash.
Yeah.
Right? What is more important in your opinion, sales or marketing?
I would say sales for sure, actually. I think sales, like for the reason you said, even if you have the best marketing in the world, you can't close, if you're not closable, you can't close it, you're going to have zero. But you could also say if you had the worst marketing in the world, but you had the best closer, could you close still amount of deals? No, you wouldn't close the same amount of deals, right?
Right.
So I think sales is on top, but I think marketing's right there. This business, obviously that's where we get all of our data, we get all of our leads is from the marketing. And so a lot of people go in there and, what we did in my first, year where I think we struggled in is I didn't have a very good marketing person. Like I said, my other partner at that time, we were both sales oriented, right? And so we're not pulling lists very effectively. Obviously it's not a hard thing to do. It's not, anyone could do it, but like, we're not staying on top of it. Why? Because we don't like doing it. That's just it. Like, we're not going to be as top on something that we don't like doing, right? You find an excuse. Everyone knows this. Like, if you have to do something you don't want to do, or you don't like to do, excuse me, right? You want to do it, but you don't like it. You'll find every reason not to do it. I got to go help my mom out with this. I got to go finish reading this before And so marketing was like that for us for the first year, because we didn't have someone that liked doing it and was good at it. And so you just got to be able to match. And maybe you're really good at marketing. You need to find that salesperson ASAP, right? Just to complement you. But going back to it, like, I believe if you have the best salesperson, they'll find a way to make even if it's bad marketing, make it work in whatever perspective. Because first off, again, in this business, you could have the people that want the highest price possible, market price, 6 months later, 30 days later, 60, they're selling to you at a discount. And why? One, maybe because you already built good rapport as a salesperson. And two, because they trust you. And that's very important for a salesperson. And again, that could have been classified as junk marketing when it came in, bad marketing. But because that salesperson was able to, build that rapport, be able to make the seller feel comfortable, even though, they didn't agree on a price the first time talking. Mm-hmm. That relationship, that professionalism as that salesperson now allowed you to get that deal 3 months later, 6 months later.
Yeah.
The seller situation changed,
Yeah. Yeah. That's great perspective on that, dude. Marketing, right? Marketing can be a very tricky thing. And it's interesting when we go to like these masterminds and you start hearing from the heavy hitters, like you mentioned how Doug is doing $12 million.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, how the hell are you doing $12 million? I'm out here in Georgia struggling just to make $2-3 million.
Yeah.
So what does marketing look like for you guys right now? I know we just had a massive like pivot in the market.
Yeah.
Right. What does marketing look like for your company right now?
Yeah. So like you said, we had a massive pivot. So before I just go and just give you an idea, first 8 months of the year were heavily TV and SMS. Mixed in with some need to sell my house fast, which is like SEO, PPC, like a la carte, where you can bid on certain counties and stuff like that and cities. But now what we're in those cold calling too, that first 8 months. Now, heavy SMS, direct mail. We're hitting redirect, not a huge amount. Spend about $3,000 a month in direct mail, just targeting our system, right, with some high end mail pieces. And then we just stopped PPC like 2 weeks ago, but we were in PPC. So now it's really SMS, direct mail. Where else did we just? We're starting now. Literally in the last week, we signed up for a company where we're going to start sending auto-generated MLS offers. So now we're going to work stuff off the MLS, discounted prices. Obviously, just offer mass offers. Realtors like 50% of their listings, and not expect to get any really, but to negotiate up. That's a big marketing source. And I know I'm forgetting one, and I don't know why I'm forgetting it. But a big thing this quarter is really our CRM. It's just remarketing our CRM via SMS, even some bit of a cold calling type, but just only hitting our CRM. So that's going to be our biggest thing. And I know it's not a marketing source, but it is kind of a data source where it's like...
Well, I mean, you built the pipeline.
Yeah, so exactly.
It's like a marketing source.
Yeah, so we're just nailing... That's our big thing this quarter is like getting in touch as many of our leads we have right now and opportunities, and just finding a way to spend our efforts on that and marketing to them, whether that means direct mail, like we've talked about. We're going to re-hit them, and then we're also going to SMS blast, and just that's going to be, like I said, our main focus. But those are our three marketing sources right now. TV still just at a small level, so that does count, but it's mostly, again, just SMS really heavy, and just have these other tertiary ones that are a little smaller. But trying to target some higher end fruit, some bigger deals from that, direct mail. And
no, I heard you make a video talking about don't ever cut off your marketing.
Yeah.
And so many wholesalers are really screwing up because that's one of the number one things that they're doing is they're cutting marketing. But you just said something so important that like when you build that pipeline and you're going through situations like we're going through right now with this market shift, targeting all of those leads that you built up over time. Because how long did it take you to build everything in your CRM? It took years, right?
Yeah, years, man. 2 to 3 years of nonstop. And here's the funny thing, and I know I can talk, but the funny we always hear is we spend so much money to get those leads.
Yep.
And what I mean so much money is like our cost per lead on SMS is like $15. But you're getting we're getting way more than that. We're getting like 700 leads a week on there.
Yeah.
So you can do the math on that. You divide, but you're spending a lot of money on these leads just to not hit them more than twice. And once they get in your system, not to hit them as much as you were trying to do before. So a lot of people take that for, granted. They get the lead like, oh, it's mine now. It's in my system. I'm going to hit it once or twice a month. But it's like, that's the time now to double down and nail them, right? And so like you're saying, I always tell people, do not stop marketing if it's working, right? If it's working marketing, don't ever stop it.
Yeah.
Because again, like you said, people right now, they're how long do I take? I'm not, making as much money now but you got to look back too. Again, was it the marketing or was it you? Right? Because a lot of times, and like I said, with TV, we made sure to look through and we want to put the benefit to that it was our fault as much as possible, but we just kept looking and found the data. But there's other marketing sources like cold calling where we saw that, hey, look, we could have done a better job at calling this lead faster, doing this, and we adjusted for it. But we still didn't see the results at the end. But we knew and you got to do that, right? You can't just stop a pre-existing working marketing source without trying to do everything, exhaust all the resources you can to figure out why that didn't work. And then once you finally can do that, throw the white flag in, go onto it and use those efforts to spend it on some other marketing that's working for you, right? Double down even more. Because SMS, we spend about roughly $30K a month now on SMS. And before we were spending like $15K earlier in the year. Now we're saying, look, it's time to even go harder on it. Why? Because one, a lot of people are saying it's gone. They've been saying that for 2 years since I've been texting. They're like, oh, it's done. I've stopped been texting. I'm not doing it anymore. And that's been the best results for us because those people keep leaving. Less people are texting and maybe they're not doing it as an effective way. They're doing just 100 texts a day. We have some students too that started those. Hey, last year I tried SMS. It didn't work. How many texts were you sending a day? Like 200? We're sending 26,000 now. And so it's like, you got to know it's just a numbers game, right? Marketing is a numbers game, right? Like you said, how is Doug and Darren making $12 million last year? How'd they do around, I think it was like 11 points. How did they do around $12 million last year? Because they spent like $600K a month in marketing, They spend a lot of money, right? And that's between two markets too. Doug also has, I don't know how much you know about Doug Hopkins, but he also has one in LA. He's partners with the guy in LA, and they do even more in LA last year, just to let you know. So they were spending $600K between Phoenix and LA in TV spend.
Bro.
$7 million a year, but his companies, his LA one did way better than the Phoenix $10 million one.
Is that his only marketing channels, TV?
They do TV and radio, smaller amount. And again, I haven't talked to Doug and them in a while, so I don't want to be talking for them, their business, but I know their marketing source, but it's TV heavily TV. But yeah, they've succeeded, and I'm just bringing them up to just boost them up. Like Darren's been a big mentor, which is the COO to Doug, for us. And, he runs our TV too. But like to just show you, like, how can you do it? It's all a numbers game, right? And if you told me 4 years ago, I would be spending, at our peak, last year we're spending $80K a month on marketing. It's like, if you got me, like I'm spending $80K 4 years ago, I was afraid to buy a $2,000 list.
Yeah.
Skip traced. And now I'm spending $80K a month consistently. You know what I mean? So it's like, and it's just a mindset thing. And obviously it's not just mindset. You got to have the money, right? Of course. But just thinking of marketing as a return on investment, not an expense. That's the biggest thing, right?
So what would you say got you to that point to start spending that kind of money? Was it just getting mentors?
Yeah, it's mentors. Just seeing, Darren and Doug, spending that money. You have Ren. You got Steve Chang even was spending a lot. Like, it's just seeing that these guys, like, this is what it takes. If you want to hit those numbers, it's just a numbers game. Like, you're not going to do, 100 deals a year by spending, $5K a month. Like, it's going to be really, like, I don't know anyone that does that, right? Yeah. Good luck. So it's like, you got to be able to, and of course, there maybe someone's in there watching, I found a way, but consistent, you got to be able to spend money on marketing, right? Yeah. That's how you make money in the business, right?
No, definitely, dude. I was going to ask you that too, is like, what does your guys' overhead look like for a company your size that has that many employees, and what kind of numbers you guys doing? But I know everyone went through a market shift. Everyone's kind of, I want to say rebuilding, but revamping, right? Everyone's being careful. So like, what kind of goals have you guys set for your company for this year? Like, what annual revenue do you guys want to hit? What are you guys saying? Hey, this is what we're going to spend per month. Like, what are the numbers looking like?
Yeah. So we got victimized last year to like thinking so far out. And we actually like now thinking like, we have a goal for revenue and it's roughly around like 3.5 million, give or take. Right. But our goal this year is to be just as efficient and profitable as possible. Cause I'm gonna tell you right now, I had mentors nonstop and people I knew like, hey, we're going for 7 million. We're going for 10 million. We're going for this million. And then it's like, at the end of the day, like, how much money are you really making?
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of people got hit with that. Right. And we did bad last year when we were like, such a good 6 months, and then you're still spending marketing and it's not working. So, I mean, towards the end of the year, and it gets harder and harder and harder. And we lost money a couple months, and it's definitely a great learning experience. And just noting that this is not as easy as it was the last 3 years before, where you could sell everything higher. Right. But yeah, no, for a quarter, we spend right now we're set to spend for the next 3 months roughly around $60K a month. Actually, excuse me, $60K this month, and then about $40K the next 2 months in marketing. So we're still spending a good amount of marketing, $150K roughly in the quarter.
How often are you guys having to pull data?
I'm not the data guy, but I would say every freaking week they're pulling data. They're just refreshing data, right? Because, you have an absentee list. You can update it in that city every week or every maybe month they do it, right? And then they hit the next city, right? Every city's a different week. But we have Audantic too. Okay. I don't know if you know Audantic, but that refreshes every, I think, quarter. I mean, to be honest, I would be lying if I knew exactly what they do every week with data, but I just know they're constantly refreshing different cities and counties with data and just retargeting, filtering out people that said they don't want to sell, put them on this list, bring back the people that want to, stuff like that.
Have you compared Audantic to like a prop stream and a list source?
I haven't as the data guy, but I just know our team has, and it's way better. And when I say way better, it's people, right? You can get every person in your whole county on the county website, right? In their mailing address. So it's not like they do something incredibly different. And it's not like PropStream doesn't have those people. They have them accessible to you. The thing with Audantic is it's just, that predictive data. They have an algorithm and AI that can run through and say, based on this, and this criteria, this seller's more likely to sell. And they just give you that list. Yeah. And it was $28K a year to have that list. And I believe you get like Georgia market where we had to pick 2 counties. You only get 2 counties usually. I think you actually get 1, but we talked in to get 2. We got like 45,000 people on that list. So it's kind of, it's pretty expensive, and you still got to skip trace it. But I know we had over a 10X return easily last year on it. So it's worth every bit of it if you can get into Audantic in your market. Yeah. I would highly recommend it.
I want to pivot a little bit, man. For the person that's watching this right now, right? If they're saying, man, I really want to get into real estate, I want to get into wholesaling. What steps would you take if you were starting from ground zero?
If I'm starting from ground zero and I'm trying to get into real estate wholesaling, I'm more than likely, and you're talking about marketing source, you're talking about just in general? Like
just in general.
Yeah.
Like they're watching this or they see you and they're like, man, like I want to start my journey.
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing is get educated as can be on YouTube of wholesaling and understanding the marketing sources. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I got to know the person. If the person's like me, sales oriented person, right? I'm telling them, get a launch control account, which is the texting software, get some data, right? And I'm going to text as many people and talk to as many people as possible. And talking also meaning, I got TTP on here, right? Talk to people, Brent Daniels, but also you could text them, right? Text them, just get a hold of as many motivated sellers, right? Eventually you'll text them. You obviously got to get them on the phone eventually, but at least text them. And so that's what I'm doing. Now, if I'm talking about a more analytical person, right? Maybe I'm working some PPC campaigns to where I'm getting more motivated sellers, right? If I'm better on the computer with keywords, I'm better doing, SEO stuff. Maybe I'm doing more of that stuff on the sidelines and noting that, a PPC lead's easier to close than a SMS lead, right? Yeah. So if I'm not as good as a closer, I obviously want the easier fruit in my hand. So I'm going to know that analytical. But, if it's me starting over as a sales guy, I'm getting a launch control account as soon as possible. I'm texting as many people as possible. But as well as just throw a little hook in the ear is I'll probably be building a big JV partnership too. Even if I didn't have the brand I have now, and not that I'm freaking Ryan Pineda or Pace, but even if I just started out brand new, I want to do as many deals as possible at the highest margins, and meaning, again, make as much money. I'm going to do the JV route, some of the Keegley, Coble wholesaling, as well as doing my own stuff that you're not reliable or dependent on other wholesalers, but also your own thing. But that's what I'm doing as a salesperson. I think my personality more would be is just get on the phone, text as many people, get them on the phone and lock them up. I think that's the best, most affordable marketing channel. Right now, that's what I think, right? Everyone else could be different, but that I'm seeing.
So, dude, I ask every entrepreneur that comes on this podcast this: content. Why is content so important? What has it done for you?
Yeah, I think content's so important. It's just making yourself known, right? Mm-hmm. I think if you make yourself known, people trust you, right? And if people can trust you, it's even if you're not selling anything, they feel like they know you almost, and the point of where they'll bring you stuff for free. Yeah. They'll bring you deals, right? They see you doing wholesaling. They'll bring you deals, even if they're not in Georgia, right? They'll trust you. They'll support you on your podcast. They'll refer you to friends to watch on podcasts. Or when you start offering something for value, which everyone monetizes at some point, whether that means just YouTube for free, but even to monetize, they already trust you. They see you doing the business, and it's a lot easier to get them into your funnel or get them into your system. And we found some of our best talent. That's another reason. You do this brand, they see you doing it. I found some of the best talent. I would say our top producers right now in sales were from referral or from social media, excuse me. They found us on social media, right? Me or Chandler. And that's helped us a tremendous amount. And again, that brand is going to stick with you forever, right? Like what Pineda and Pace are doing, like he can use that the rest of his life, what he's building now. That stuff that we put out doesn't go anywhere. You can recycle it, but it doesn't go anywhere. So the brand you're building now is going to stick with you as long as obviously you don't ruin it. But that brand's going to be there. And again, that's going to help you tremendously. And what it's done for us is helped us with education, our education program, a lot of clients, but even better, our employees. We got a lot of employees from it. And then 3, it's maybe even better as just a real estate investor, because it's forcing me to be open, forcing me to share things that I know. And it's helping me, if I can teach it, if I can explain on a YouTube video, it's only making me, more efficient and better at, explaining it and knowing what I'm doing, in some sense, right?
Absolutely, dude. So you've been able to pretty much hire employees because of content.
Yeah, no, that's been I've been hired probably 6 to 7 from, employees that saw my videos, whether some of them were wholesalers that didn't have that much success, or it's just they saw the video on TikTok. Yeah. It's been a couple people.
Bro, Pineda was talking about that. Like when you put out content, you create content, you're branding yourself, it becomes so much easier to build a company. It's so much easier to get leads.
Yep.
Content is just like, it's your new face card, your new business card now.
That's a game changer.
Even for me, like as an introvert, like started this podcast because I know the importance of branding. Yeah. Right. And giving value. And so content, it's everything right now.
Oh, it's for sure, man. This is what it can make you so much money in every aspect. And I think that's what Pineda said. That's his most valuable, assets himself, obviously. Yeah. He can build so much around it just because of who he is,
Look what it's done for him.
Yeah, exactly.
He started 2020?
Yeah, 2020 in beginning of during COVID.
And he was just doing house flipping. And now he's making $1 million a month.
Yeah, he's killing it.
Owns multiple businesses because of content. It's crazy, bro.
Yeah, so he's a perfect example.
Yeah, I see you though, bro. Like, keep going.
I'm trying, man.
You're getting out there, dude. And how old are you?
23.
Shit. 23, bro. 23.
Yeah.
Bro.
I'm trying to get there, man.
I'm 35. So
still young.
So imagine 12 years from now where you're going to be at. You'll still be young.
Yeah.
So.
Hoping we keep that momentum, keep it going. Maybe get some
man.
sub twos on us, get some big ones.
There you go, bro. There you go. So how can people get a hold of you, man?
Yeah, so they can get a hold of me on Instagram. It's Gino, Gino Palomba, Palomba, and YouTube, Gino Palomba, TikTok, Gino Palomba. So yeah, get me on Instagram is where I'm most active. And so yeah, hit me up on there if you have any questions. I'm, answer as many DMs as possible. And yeah.
Dope, man. All right, guys. So that's it for today. Hope you guys got a lot of value, got a lot of gems. Please like, subscribe, comment. Until then, I will see you guys on the next episode.
Sir, thanks for having me again.
There you go.
Thanks, boss.